out of Cleveland. You want to be a boss? That's how you be a boss. I did. I made a mistake. Ladies and gentlemen, might be our smartest show. Seth Greenberg, the smartest man not named Dakich in college basketball, is going to join us. He's making his debut here on the show. And then Royce White, man. I can't wait to talk to Royce White. You got to go I got to figure out the words that Royce says. He's really smart, former NBA great, congressional candidate, now arguably the smartest man with the best vocabulary in the world. I've actually been practicing my 30 days to a more powerful vocabulary. All right, look, there's nothing that drives me more bat-blank crazy than entitled athletes. Actually, entitled people drive me bat-blank crazy. It makes me nuts. Now, here's my background. When I was a kid, I wanted autographs. I had an autograph book. The Cubs would come play at my dad's high school. Fergie Jenkins, Billy Williams, I'd bring my autograph book, and everybody was great. Always said, anybody that ever wanted an autograph, I'm signing. Some of my teammates used to go out the back door at Indiana. I always went out the door, the main door of our locker room, and signed every autograph. Sometimes it was embarrassing because I didn't play sometimes, and people back, when's Steve Alford coming out? I get it. People want pictures. I always take them. People want what I always do it. I always do it. I'm not that popular. I know that. I understand. I've lived the charmed life. But I went to Indiana game the other day, and I just, hey, look, you want a picture? Yeah, sure. You want a picture? Yeah, sure. Go in the back. You want a picture? Yeah, let's do it. Yeah. I can't imagine doing this right here, what this entitled Russell Westbrook just did. Let's roll the tape.
Russell ignoring his fans.
Russell, can you please sign my jersey? Please, Russell. Please, you're my favorite player. Please, Russ.
Yeah, look, I'm sorry. I just can't imagine doing that. I mean, just being an arrogant jag. That's it. Hey, look, I get it. Every city you go to, sometimes you don't want to deal with people. Sometimes you just want to have a nice steak. Or you want to get to your room, or you want to watch Netflix, or you want to get to your girlfriend, your wife, or both. I don't know. A lot of NBA guys got a lot of crap going on, but you don't do this. I'm sorry, you don't do this. Now, I've always thought Russell Westbrook to be a bit of a jag, and now I think even more. Just look at the arrogance and the stupidity. I'm not saying, people say, well, maybe those guys didn't want the autographs for the right reasons. So what? Well, you don't want them profiting off your name. Why not? Seriously, and I should bring those down. Maybe I'll have Jared or somebody bring them down. But I get letters probably once a week from somebody wanting me to sign a baseball card that we had at Indiana, or wanting me to sign a piece of paper. They'll send me, a letter. It's basically form whatever. And I always send it, and I send it back. I always do. I just can't fathom. Now, I understand I'm not never have been, never will be, don't want to be at the same level of this clown. But it just makes me crazy. This was not discussed in our pre-show meeting because sometimes, frankly, I get distracted in my life. But file this under. Hey, if you guys can find a picture of Steph Curry, file this under A. As long as it doesn't affect me. Steph Curry and his wife, oh man, they were big Donald Trump. They were big on equity, people. Hey, let's go. We want everybody to have equal opportunity. Yay, Rock, go fight, win. Really? Yeah. Until, of course, that affects them. Until the Currys get affected. Remember, they endorsed Joe Biden in 2020, and Aisha publicly talked about the racial inequity and social injustices in our country. Well, apparently those social injustices can be resolved, but not by my backyard, because the Currys and their $30 million mansion, they don't want any of this, quote, low-income housing in their neighborhood. They don't want it on their street, in their town. They sent letters, filed petitions to get fences built, to ask, no, don't do it, not in our beautiful city. And by the way, their beautiful city, Atherton, California, is the most expensive zip code in the country. But hey, Curry's, we don't want you in our city. We don't need it. We don't want it. We won't have it. Not in our town, but let's stand up. Social injustices. Yeah, just not around us. Biden doesn't want to build a wall. Curry's building a wall. See, I got in an argument with somebody, and I'm curious your thought on this. I'm curious. Friend of mine, liberal dude, we're driving to play golf. We're talking, not necessarily politics, but it turns to a wall. And I go, I got liberal friends that live in gated communities. Oh, that's not the same thing. Okay, why isn't it the same thing? Well, it's just not. Okay. All right, I agree. A gated community is not the same as a wall. A wall is far more necessary. A wall and some structure to our border crisis is far more necessary than a gated community on the north side of Indianapolis. I agree, they're not the same. One's more important than the other. But damn, people like Curry and the rest, they can't wait, man. Social justice for all. Yeah, let's help everyone. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Not in my neighborhood, people. Not in my neighborhood. I ain't having it. That's for you. It's like Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City. Hold on a second here. Yeah, everybody, nobody's illegal. We are a sanctuary city. What? You're actually bringing illegal immigrants to our city? What? Nobody's illegal. Really? I don't know. Seems like if you are in the country violating the law, you're illegal, but I digress. Eric Adams, oh my God, now it's a catastrophe. We need help. And I don't know if you saw this, speaking of these illegal immigrants who are put up in these hotels, luxury hotels, where all they're doing is smoking weed, drinking. I mean, the stories are endless about it, screwing the whole deal. Now they've been kind of kicked out and they're camped out. They're mad. We want to live here. No kidding. Tell Noah about the flood. The world is insane. That's why I'm here. I am here because, ladies and gentlemen, you need me on this show. You want me on this show. That's right. That's right, you do. All right, college basketball this week. I know a lot of yous. I know a lot of you say, hey, I can't get into college basketball till football's over. Football's over. There's one game left. It's a Super Bowl. You're going to be hearing about it, so you got to get in to college basketball. And my beloved Indiana Hoosiers have a hell of a week. You Hoosier fans, hey, man, this is a heck of a week. What does that mean? Well, what that means is they got to go to Maryland. Maryland's won 2 in a row. Maryland's won 3 out of 4. Maryland's won a couple. Last time they've played, they've won by double digits. Indiana's the hottest team in college basketball. They go on the road, they go home, and they beat people by 15. Then Indiana is going to play the biggest game of the year. And by the way, I'll give you my top 5 college basketball games of the week coming up. And we'll talk about all these games with Seth Greenberg. Kansas State, Kansas played a freaking epic game. The coach for Kansas State is on the daggone scores table. He's going nuts. You know that sticks in Kansas's craw. Kansas was on a 3-game losing streak. Now they went to Kentucky and won. Boy, TCU beat Kentucky at Kentucky, and like most teams that beat Kentucky at Kentucky, they have gotten their brains beat out since. West Virginia started out 0-6. Bob Huggins, hey man, now I want you to listen to this. Bob Huggins is a man that has never one time, won, I want you to listen, a major college conference title. And he's going into the Hall of Fame. I mean, hey, look, I agree. He's got a lot of wins. Everybody gets in the Hall of Fame. Now, hell, just show up and you do. But we're going to talk about all this with Seth Greenberg, who makes his debut on the show. I have said this before, and I'll say this again. There's a lot of announcers out there. But I only listen to the ones that tell me stuff. Like, I don't listen to the college kid 5-10 years out of college that never coached. I don't listen to him. I'm sorry, I don't. I should, but I don't. I listen to guys like Seth Greenberg, Franny Frischella, and if they're not doing it, I usually turn the volume down and read a John Grisham novel, or I'm really, I can't remember, who the hell's the guy I'm into now? I don't know, but I'm reading all his novels and I can't remember his daggone name. I'm losing my mind. It's going to come to me in the middle of this interview, but Seth Greenberg makes his debut on Don't At Me live from his palatial estate in Avon, Connecticut, ladies and gentlemen. My man, welcome to the new show. You haven't been on this show. Welcome, my friend. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Seth, unmute yourself. Tell him to unmute himself. There you go.
Most people would like me better muted.
No. Hell no. Hey, I'm having Royce White on coming up here in a little bit. Now, Royce is a lot of different things. Do you remember him as a player at Iowa State?
Yeah, sure do. Yeah, he was actually a pretty skilled dude, right? About 6'8", if I'm not mistaken. Kind of a handle. Had a little problem with traveling in planes, if I'm correct.
He did. He had a little bit of a problem. Ended up, I'm going to get into that with Royce. All right, Seth. I think this is a huge week in college basketball. I saw your list of teams. A little disappointed you didn't have my beloved Hoosiers after they whooped up on Minnesota, and, of course, they whooped up on Ohio State. A little disappointed. Just a little.
I'll tell you what, Indiana's playing well. It's amazing how you can go from giving up 89 points a game and guarding no one to literally getting in a stance of disrupting everyone. And it's amazing how, you lose Xavier Johnson, but you might have gotten better because now the ball's in Fino's hands a lot more. He's physical. He's tough. He can defend. And then, they're playing 100% through Trace Jackson-Davis, who's, let's face it. I mean, he's playing right now. But wasn't for Zach Edey, he'd have to be right in the thick of the Player of the Year discussion. So I give them a lot of credit. Dan, we've lived it. The hardest thing to do is when your team is underachieving, to keep their attention, get them back, and get them competing at the way you need to compete to be, successful. And I give those guys a lot of credit because they were playing bad basketball. They weren't checking anyone. Their shot selection wasn't good. Their ball movement wasn't good. And then all of a sudden, they turned the whole thing around. I mean, they gave up 89 points a game for 3 straight games. And literally, we're not taking anything away from anyone they were playing against. But he's got them guarding. They're playing harder. They're unselfish. And Trace Jackson-Davis has been a beast.
Hey, Seth, is Purdue, I know resume-wise, don't get me wrong. I understand resume-wise, they are the number one team in the country, and they should be. But you study this. You study teams, whether it's just you sitting down, breaking it down, or talking to coaches or whatever. In your mind, are they the number one team in the country? Are they the best team?
Right now, the best team in the country on a given night, they are. I mean, I don't think there is a best team in the country. I don't think anyone has really separated themselves. Here's the deal with Purdue. They got one dude that's just different. Let's face it. He's just different. I mean, you play behind him, he backs you down. He could score over either shoulder. You play on one side of him, he's even going to shoot the left-hand jump up. You double him. First of all, the dudes that are doubling him are up to his waist. Unless he puts it down, you're going to have a problem. But if you double him, he's really improved his ability to pass. The thing that I get a kick out of, everyone talks about the freshman guards. I don't care if they're freshmen. Look how they play. I mean, Fletch Lawyer's now, you and I talked about this about a couple of weeks ago. He's not afraid of anything. And then, the pieces fit. Mason Gillis does what he's supposed to do. First does what he's supposed to do. Braden Smith reminds me a lot of Aaron Kraft. Better shooter, but, has that irritating part to his game that he's just hard to play against. So I think that until someone figures it out, and they close out games. How about how they executed it at the end of the Michigan State game? I mean, you kidding me? With 2 freshmen involved in the play. Shallow cut, throw, boom, post up, game over. So I think right now they've been the most consistent team in college basketball. I think there are other teams that are playing well, but they've been the most consistent team. I think the one team that can match up with them to some extent is Tennessee.
We got a lot of OutKick is based in Nashville, and a lot of Tennessee fans. What makes Tennessee so good in your mind? Defensively, they're terrific. Why?
Well, I'll tell you, they're really connected. They're really physical. They can guard the balls. Kai Ziegler can stop the ball at the point of attack, which you have to do. They have versatility and agility. Their defense. They can play big. They can play small. They can play with Josiah James at 4. They can play with Josiah James at 3. They're an older, mature team. You know, they're the best offensive team I can remember Rick Barnes having. They can carve you up in the half court. They can score in the post. I'll tell you, Olivier Kamwa, that dude can guard a post. He can also guard Jalen Wilson. So they got versatile defenders. They can play fast. They can play slow. They can the way their lineup, they've got incredible depth. They literally have 4, 6, 11, 7-footers they can play that all can actually have an impact on the game. So I think that they are right beside Purdue in terms of talent. There are other teams. Alabama really disappointed me the other day the way they played against Oklahoma. I thought Porter Moses did just an absolutely incredible job, kind of just out-toughening Alabama offensively, defensively. But I think Tennessee is really special.
You know, when you look across college basketball and you say, okay, well, I think watching Indiana in person, let me go back to that just for a second and talk about it from a big picture standpoint. Like, I watch Indiana, and you're right, they play through Jackson Davis. I watch Purdue, they play through Zach Edey. I keep wanting to call him Tyus Edney, and he's exact opposite of Tyus Edney, right?
I mean, it's just taller, like, only 2 feet taller.
Yeah. Playing through big guys, you know, is that an anomaly? Is that something that we're going to see more of? Because I really believe this. I think Indiana's going to beat Purdue. I just think Indiana's playing great and sitting 2 rows behind the Ohio State bench. It was clear Ohio State had no shot. Are we going to see more of big guys involved, Tshiebwe or Shibwe at Kentucky, that kind of thing in college basketball?
I'm surprised we're not. Look, everyone's running 4-out, spread ball screen, roll, replace, play out of spacing. Look, coaching is like fashion. Everyone just follows the guy in front of them. If they do it in the NBA, all right, they do it in college. It's just a trickle-down effect. But I think that if you can find a guy that can score on the block, I don't know why people don't post up some guards, can invert their offense and get guards posted up. But yeah, look, if you got a Trace Jackson Davis, who I give him credit because he's comfortable in his own skin. Like, he don't care. Like, he's going to catch it on the right block, and he's going to work over his right shoulder, and he's going to score. That's just the way it is. He's going to run the floor. He's not running to shoot threes. Like, here's my example. I've got Michigan this Thursday. I got to be honest with you. Everyone talks about Hunter Dickinson. Hunter Dickinson wants to stay at the perimeter and shoot threes. That's great. He can make one every once in a while. Hunter Dickinson can help Michigan win by getting his tail right to the right block and doing what Trace Jackson Davis does. Play through him, play out of double teams. Now, they don't have great shot makers, so their spacing's not all that good. But I think if coaches are smart, you put players in position to play to their strengths. You don't care, well, I got to get them ready for the NBA. Win college games. The NBA will take care of himself. If he's good enough, he's going to get there. And you see that right now with Kentucky. Kentucky's putting Oscar Tshiebwe right in the block. They're doing a little bit of what Purdue does. They're starting to post him from the top as opposed to from the side where the help comes a whole lot quicker. So I don't understand why coaches get so caught up trying to be like, well, we play positionless. Well, if you don't have a positionless team, why are you playing positionless? How about just putting guys in position to play their strengths? It makes sense to me, but I'm a fired coach.
No, well, we both are, and it makes sense to me too, which doesn't make it so. If you and I both agree on it, then it's probably not right, but what the hell? It's like, although we could go to this, 2 negatives make a positive, right? I mean, we can go, hey,
exactly.
We can go that route. All right,
exactly. It worked against those those balls behind me. It worked against those guys, though.
All right. Boeheim earlier in the year was critical of the Big Ten's tournament performance. All right. Whether you agree or disagree, the fact remains Big Ten hasn't won anything since 2000, and when Tom's been the guy to go to the Final Four, Tom Izzo. As you look at conferences, like, do you have any here's how I look at it. I'm just going to tell you this. I see the Pac-12, they get up and down. They're not worried if a guy misses a switch. Just go play, and that bodes well in the tournament. I see real athletic ability in the SEC and talent and coaching and I see almost suffocating scouting and coaching in the Big Ten. That's a broad picture. What do you see?
I see Big 12 being the best defensive conference in college basketball. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous
Really?
how well the defensive side of the ball is coached in the Big 12. I mean, it is phenomenal. Whether, even last night, Texas Tech gets back in that game against Iowa State. Texas, relentless defensively, did a great job of basically taking, what the Big 12 does is they take the other team's best player out of the game. I mean, if you saw last night, Baylor's backcourt is terrific. Any given night, any one of those three guys could drop 30. They committed an extra defender. Every time those guys came off a ball screen, it was hard hedged, pushed out, it almost blitzed. Every time they came off a wide pin down or any other type of screen, it was extended to the point where, it pushed the catch out. The Big 12 is the deepest conference, 1 through 8, in terms of in relation to the number of teams in the league. The Big 12. The Big 10 is terrific. I'm not sure it's Final Four. Obviously, with Purdue and Indiana, I think you have two teams that have a shot. But in terms of 1 through the conference, it's incredibly well coached. It's incredibly well scouted. The execution in that, I've got a Northwestern game on Thursday. I'm watching Northwestern. I love the way they're playing now. They're active defensively. They're connected defensively. The ball moves. They play with good spacing. They're skilled. So I look at the coaching in overall offense and defense coaching the Big Ten. Preparation is ridiculous. Big 12.
Yeah, no, I've always said that.
The defense is at another level in the Big 12. I'll tell you the conference that is not getting enough attention right now. That's the Big East. Big East is good. Big East is good, and it's well coached. Shaka Smart's doing a great job at Marquette. McDermott does a really good job and has a good team at Creighton. Ed Cooley's team plays as hard as anyone. Danny Hurley's team, even though they struggle in the backcourt, has depth and competes. The Big East is really good this year.
I had Shaka on last week. He said something interesting, and I think you and I would both agree with. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but we were talking about the NIL, that kind of stuff. He goes, look, Dan, I don't want anybody coming here because of NIL. That's a bad way to start a relationship. I had not heard a coach really say that. I haven't talked to that many coaches. You talked to far more. Is that a reoccurring theme? Look, I don't want kids to come here for NIL.
Yeah, I think so. In theory, it is. There's no doubt about it. Tom Izzo talks about it all the time. I mean, I think the smart coaches are having one set. And look, it's not NIL. Can we please stop calling it NIL? It is not NIL. It's pay for play. End of conversation. On very few instances, it's NIL. I mean, look, Oscar Tshiebwe can make NIL. All right, probably Trace Jackson Davis can make NIL. But in the end, a collective is an NIL. It's not pay for play. So let's stop the facade of NIL. If it was just NIL, then Shaka would basically not have to worry about that but it isn't. It's collectives, and collectives are basically pay for play. When a guy could potentially go to play quarterback at Florida for $13 million, that's not NIL. Because I'm not sure a lot of NBA guys are making $13 million off name, image, and likeness, except LeBron James. So, I mean, let's call it what it is. But I think the guys that are smart, they're using the collectives, and they're basically using them for, 401(b)(3)s, whatever, charity situations, tying them into charities where there's actually some good work done in the community, but it's still pay for play, and you've got to figure out what the number you're comfortable with. I think if I was a smart coach, if it was $50,000 or whatever per player, and everyone has the same thing, because I'll tell you what's happening, and we're seeing all these upsets, Dan. We're seeing them all over the country. The number of unranked teams that have beaten ranked teams, the number of lower ranked teams that have beaten higher ranked teams. It's real simple. There's so much static around these kids, it's unbelievable. Whether it's peer pressure, whether it's social media, whether it's parental pressure, whether it's unrealistic expectation, whether it's, just human nature, jealousy. That's real. And what's happened because of all those things, I think that your team, it's hard to keep them focused. Like I speak with a lot of coaches. I tell them the most important thing is can't get too high, you can't get too low. Your goal is to navigate this season so that if you're an NCAA tournament team, when you get to the finish line, which is the NCAA tournament, your team is in a good place, in a good space mentally and emotionally and together. because on a day-to-day basis, I think there's so much pulling at these young players that it's hard on a daily basis to keep them on the same page the way you would normally want them.
I agree with that. I completely agree with that. First off, we're breaking news because apparently the powers to be have gotten wised up and allowing you to call games, which is the smartest thing that those guys could have done, at least in my humble opinion. Speaking of games, what does Kansas have to do to win and avenge a loss? And what does Kansas State have to do? That's a big one tonight. Indiana, Maryland. Give me those two games. Give me those two. Those are pretty good tonight.
Those are good games. Yeah, I think, look, Kansas could have beaten Kansas State at Kansas State. Kansas State's really good, by the way. They got two guys that are really hard to match up with. Keontae Johnson, one of the best stories in college basketball, obviously passed out in that game against Florida State. He hadn't played in 2 years. And he's just a problem. I mean, he's a small forward that can post up. He can shoot threes. He can drive it. He gets to the offensive glass. Marquise Noel has been phenomenal. But it's also Naquan Tomlin, the 6'11" guy that handles the ball like a guard. I mean, they're a really good team. So a couple things that, last time they played, Kansas switched everything. And I thought that Jerome Tang did a great job of creating matchups and then attacking matchups. So they've got to figure out when and how they're going to switch. And if they do switch on a bad matchup, are they going to run a second defender? I think that's going to be really, really important. And then at the end of the game, I would like to see Jalen Wilson on Keontae Johnson. Kevin McCullough guarded him the first time. But again, once there's a ball screen or down screen, Kansas is switching. So I think that, and everyone's doing it. Kansas is switching and Kansas State is switching. So you can create matchups. It's not just creating them, it's how you're going to attack them. The biggest, basically Achilles heel for Kansas is their lack of depth. 87% of their points come from their starters. They've got to figure out a way in this next 6 weeks to develop some depth and get something out of those guys. They have no backup at the 5. So, in the Kansas State game, I think Grady Dick fouled out, McCullough fouled out, KJ Adams fouled out. All of a sudden they're playing guys at the end of the game that basically haven't been in that position. KJ Adams, I'm just telling you, he's one of the most improved players in the country. I watched every basket Kansas scored against Kansas State yesterday. The dude is the best screener in college basketball. He is part of every single basket that they score. He can short roll and kind of score it and drive it. It's an okay passer, but he gets guys freed up. And he rim runs hard off ball screens. Kansas got to do a good job on Keontae and keep Noel out of the lane. They did a great job against Noel last time. They can do that again. And then DeJuan Harris, in their losses, is averaging like 1.9 points a game. Now, he doesn't have to score a ton of points. He had 11 assists in the game last time against Kansas State. But, just him making those threes against Kentucky the other day opened up the floor just a little bit for Wilson and the rest of Kansas's team. So I think it's going to be a big-time game, a great atmosphere. Look, you lose games in the Big 12. That's just the way it is. Everyone's losing their mind. Kansas has lost games in the Big 12. You know what? The Big 12's got a lot of good teams. You can lose games. It's the way it is. It's not like they're running around with 8,000 NBA players on the roster. That's just the way it is. There's no really teams. All those young teams that have the pros, they're not ready to win yet.
Hey, give me a little bit on Indiana, Maryland tonight.
Really simple. If Indiana handles Maryland's extended defense and changes defense, they win the game. Maryland at times is offensively challenged. Reese can score. Dante Scott can score a little bit. Hakeem Hart can make some shots. The little left-handed kid who's transferred from Charlotte, Jameer Young, is kind of a streaky offensive player. I think you got to do a good job on him. I would think Shafino would guard him. And I like the size on him. I think that's really important to guard him with size. Maryland's a different team. They will extend. They will change. They will make you react. Kevin Willard's a really good coach. If they contain Young and if they do a good job, obviously, handling the pressure, Indiana will win. If they pitch it around all over the place, then Maryland will be in position to win that thing at the end of the game.
What a debut. Fans are just going nuts. It's the return of Dan and Seth. It's unbelievable. It's incredible. Hey, my man, thanks a lot. Appreciate you coming
Be
on.
squared.
Great stuff.
You're the man.
Can't
Behave
wait.
yourself, brother. Nah, you
See
ain't
you, brother. I
behaving
can't
yourself.
wait to watch him on Thursday. He's a great.
Yeah, let's go.
I'm serious. The dude, you're great. I mean, who are you with, Reese?
No, I'm with Kevin Brown. Kevin Brown. He goes from Crispin to Hummel to Greenberg. He has. I tell you one thing. I don't know what he did wrong, but he's stuck with me for 2 hours.
Yeah, that's all right. Kevin Brown's a good dude. Tell him I said
He
hello.
is a good
Thank
dude.
you, my
He's
friend.
talented. Thanks, brother.
All right, that's my friend, the great Seth Greenberg. We're going to come back. I got stuff to talk to you people about, including the NBA. What? They said they made a mistake? Let me see what else. Hey, you remember that Fyre Fest dude? He's trying to con people again. Kellen Moore with a new job. The world is crazy. Stay right here.
NIL, when it comes to Florida, has been a story over the last couple of weeks because of Jaden Rashada. And you put out a great piece with a timeline on kind of how things went down, who kind of was the one involved in this, I don't know, situation with Jaden Rashada. And so let's kind of dive into that. Coming off your reporting, and I don't want you to give everything away because I want people to go and read it. But what we're kind of looking into this thing for the last couple of months, man, what were some of your big takeaways, maybe that shocked you, or you just, when you dug deep into it, you're like, okay, wait a minute, this doesn't feel right?
Well, I think that's probably the first thing to note is this has been ugly publicly for 2 weeks. But as you said there, it's been going on for 2 months. And I think the big thing is, and I didn't really touch on it in the story, was it was so interesting to follow Florida and Miami this year. Obviously, you've got John Ruiz, a billionaire, pretty deep pockets, and he's just throwing money and caution to the wind. Wanted to see his Hurricanes get back to the top, and there were so many instances, more than I can remember since I've been covering the team since 2013, where Florida and Miami were 1-2 or in the top 3 with commits in the same class. And I think Florida just came out second place or third place to Miami so many times. And I think what precipitated this whole incident was Florida trying to get a win back. And this was right after Cormani McClain shocked the world. And it was right after Florida had gotten back into conversations with Jaden, because prior to him coming to Miami, they were rescinded the scholarship offer. I think saw the writing on the wall. Jaden had told them, hey, I'm going to go to Miami. And I think what you got was Florida and boosters or collective people around Florida like, hey, we need to get a win.
Hey, welcome back. Seth Greenberg, Royce White coming up. We're going to talk about a number of things, including all the goings-on in Memphis with Royce White, former NBA player, former Iowa State Cyclone. He was a hell of a player. I don't want to even think about how good he was. He was great. No, he wasn't a little good. And, of course, I'll also have the 5 best college basketball games of the week. I don't have the games that Seth was talking. Oh, one of them I do, Kansas State. But Indiana and Maryland is going to be spectacular. You know, let's understand something. And you guys that listen to my show know I'm always going to talk about this. There's always a backstory. All right. So Joseph Osai. Remember Joseph Osai? He was the guy with the late hit, right? He hit out of bounds. Joseph Osai on the sideline crying. And I mean, he is crying. And everybody's all upset. And the world says, oh, my God, we got to think about the mental health of athletes. We got to think about this. And I'm sitting there going, really? Why do we have to think about the mental health of athletes? Professional athletes will figure it out. They seriously will figure it out. I mean, I think. I mean, look, nobody has more around them than professional athletes. Nobody has more trainers, more accessibility to mental health. Anything you want, you're going to get as a professional athlete. So I got to tell you, I'm not the one that's concerned about it. I hope everybody's okay. It's great. And Royce White dealt with it. We'll talk about it. But let's go through this. Let's first show Joseph Osai answering questions about his mistake. He's the guy that shoved Patrick Mahomes, out of bounds. 15-yard penalty, field goal, Super Bowl. Here's Osai at his locker with teammates B.J. Hill around him.
Dumb question. Come on. He played his butt off the whole game. That's a different question.
Overall, I mean, what it looked like guys were coming up to you on the sideline as you went through that. I mean, what was that like having guys come up and kind of go?
Like I said, it was great knowing that I had the support of my teammates, and I gotta, like Sam was saying, I gotta learn from experience, and I gotta know not to get close to that quarterback when he's close to that sideline. If there's anything that could possibly cause a penalty in a dire situation like that, I gotta do better.
Things are happening so fast there, obviously. Did you have any idea you were at that sideline there? I mean, obviously you're in full chase, and you know.
Yeah, I was just in full chase mode, and I was trying to push him to maybe get him going backwards because I knew he was going for that sideline. I was trying to make him go backwards, get that clock running, but I didn't know. I haven't seen it yet. I didn't know how far out of bounds we were, but yeah.
Did you get injured on the play?
Yeah, my knee buckled a little bit, but we're gonna take care of it and get an MRI done tomorrow.
Which knee?
The right knee.
What did Zach tell you after the game?
He just told me to keep my head up. Told me there were a bunch of different plays we had to make that it didn't come down to that one, and we just got to keep moving forward.
What your teammates told you?
Same exact thing. They've been super supportive, and you know, it's just I got to be better, but they've been very supportive.
How hard is that to kind of not put all that weight on you as you go through this? I mean, it's just
it's extremely hard,
what?
man.
Come on, man.
I'm sure it's tough. That's why I ask him about it.
That's a brilliant question, bro. Come on.
The support you're getting, is that a sign of kind of the culture that feeds this team?
For sure, absolutely. We're one big family. It's not fake, you know. When the going gets tough, you know, start pointing fingers, we lift each other up, and I'm just happy I got these group of guys around me supporting me right now because it's hard.
Joseph, do you have a full season this year?
The media, the level of media D-bag fully on display there, and I'm glad B.J. Hill was there. But you got to say, Joseph Osai is a great dude, man. I mean, honest to God, a great dude. I would love that guy. I think that guy is absolutely fantastic. I think that his teammate is great. I think that everything that kid does from now on, I'm going to root like crazy for him. I am. All right, here is his teammate, Jermaine Pratt's reaction coming into the locker room that caused a massive stir. It caused a huge stir.
Oh, you're not good. This is my last year. Why the did you touch the quarterback?
Why would you touch the effing quarterback is what Jermaine Pratt said. And of course, in our world, right? Oh my God, he's horrible, Jermaine Pratt. Oh my God, he's awful. By a bunch of dudes that never been in a locker room other than to ask a question or to sniff around. That's it. All right. So everybody lost their mind on Jermaine Pratt. Oh, he's terrible. I didn't. I understand you're in a freaking moment. I understand you're crazy right then. And people, we all don't live perfect lives except for our clowns in the media who are the most imperfect, most ridiculous jackasses that they are. But of course, they live perfect lives. So because of all this, Jermaine Pratt had to face the media and basically give a mea culpa / apology. Here's Pratt.
I was emotional. I was in the moment. I was wrong. I would say I was wrong. As a man, you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, I was wrong. I wasn't a great teammate at that moment. But they don't define me as a man, you know. But it is what it is, 24 hours. I'm going back to work. I got a great off season ahead with my kids and family. That's all that matters at the end of the day. When I go home to my kids, they love me. When I go home to my fiance, they love me. That's all that matters. So all the other stuff is irrelevant. Back to work.
Let me tell you something. He has nothing to apologize for. If somebody said, hey, man, I saw your reaction. What was that about? I was pissed. We lost the game. What do you want me to do? Hey, man, I saw your reaction. You're being a bad teammate. Yeah, well, tough. I mean, when did we become so daggone sensitive? When did we become so, like, a guy 2 minutes after losing a brutal football game on a tough mistake, and yeah, it was a mistake. It was a dumb play. Much as I like Osai, it was a dumb play. You got to know where the sideline is. You cannot make that play at that particular time. Where did we become so soft that a teammate literally walking off the field can't be angry at another teammate? Teammates should be angry. And then I hear all these meathead little, well, that should be done in private. But shut up. It's an emotional deal. You're blanked off. You're hot. You're hostile. And yet, he has nothing to apologize for. Not one single thing. If he wants to say something to Osai privately, fine. But nobody has anything to apologize for walking off the field. These are not robots. These are human beings that just got done with their season where 3 hours before, 4 hours before, they were convinced they're going to the Super Bowl. And now, in the most brutal way, they lose a game, man. And we're not allowed, or a guy's not allowed to do this? And this becomes a deal? Oh, man, are you out of your freaking mind? Let me tell you what's never going to happen again. I'll bet you money Joseph Osai never, ever gets a penalty like that again. Never. Never. Maybe he wins the Super Bowl. Certainly if he stays with the Bengals and the Bengals can keep everybody healthy, they will be there. It seems like, I'm not saying in the Super Bowl because it's tough to get to the Super Bowl, but I am saying if Burrow and Chase and all these guys stay healthy, a year from now we may be going, or they may be going into that locker room with a totally different approach, with a totally different happiness. Who cares? My God, are we soft? My God, are we wimpy? My God, are we babies? Guy's walking into the locker room, he's hot. He's hot at his team. He should be. My bad doesn't get it done. I used to tell players, my bad? My bad? Well, whose bad do you think it was? You're the one that threw the ball into the fifth row. Like, I got people all the time at Indiana mad at me, right? Well, you had Kelvin Sampson's team and you lost. Well, yeah, but I didn't shoot 7 of 51. Eric Gordon did. It's amazing. It is truly, truly amazing. But we are so soft. Oh, my God, I can't believe he said that. My backside. Just stop it with that stupid stuff. He should have said it. He should be saying it now. He should be saying it forever. Are you kidding me? All right. All right, shortly after being let go, see, ladies and gentlemen, there's always a backstory. All of a sudden, Kellen Moore is let go, right? He's let go Sunday. Monday, he's got a new job. Well, that job is now the offensive coordinator of the San Diego Chargers. I try to tell people there's always a backstory. When you see something very unusual in sports, there's a backstory. When you see something that just doesn't make sense, Kellen Moore's only the Chiefs have scored more points over the last 4 years than Kellen Moore's offense. They've always been in the top 6. You know, and then I hear, of course, our guys on ESPN and, of course, our guys on Fox and everywhere else defending Dak Prescott and blaming Kellen Moore. And we get it. We all get it. We all understand it. All right? We all totally understand it. My God. So Kellen Moore gets going. Kellen Moore, and for Justin Herbert, at least what it looks like to me, is you got a heck of a break. You got a professional play caller here that has shown. But never, ever, 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 ever forget there is always a backstory. Not sometimes, always. The NBA refs, I don't know if you saw LeBron James lose his mind. He got on his knees, he begged, he borrowed. And then Patrick Beverley came out with a camera, which was pretty funny in my opinion. It was really funny, actually. Patrick Beverley, we can't show it because of contracts, but he came out and showed the referee, look, on the camera here, this guy got hit on the arm. LeBron James completely lost his mind. The call did cost the Lakers the game, and the NBA says, wait a second here. Hold the phone here. Hang on here. Like everyone else, oh boy, here we go. Like everyone else, referees make mistakes. The National Basketball Referees Association tweet. We made one at the end of last night's game, and that is gut-wrenching for us. This play will weigh heavily and cause sleepless nights as we strive to be the best referees that we can be. It's great. I don't blame you. Look, I'm not mad at you. Referees do make mistakes. Just don't be so freaking arrogant. And maybe you got to be. Maybe I don't understand refereeing. I think I do, but maybe I don't. Maybe I'm not smart enough to understand real refereeing. Maybe I'm not smart enough to understand what really goes on in the world. I don't know, but quit being so arrogant. It's a tough job. It's a tough job, but I got to tell you, don't give in. Hire the best people. Regardless, hire the best people. I don't know who made or didn't make the call, but I know where the NBA is headed. It's headed down the same path that the NFL is. Just hire the best people. I know that's a concept that is insane right now. I know that's a concept we cannot get our arms around. See, I thought in broadcasting that you hired the best people. I've talked to people. It's not the case. And in everything that we're doing right now, we don't hire the best people. So then when things head south, the answer is simply you didn't hire the best people. Tough jobs demand the best people. NBA refereeing is a tough job. It demands the best people. Period. I'm going to file this under. If you fall for this, you 1,000% got what you deserve. Billy McFarland, $1,800 US an hour. Do you remember who this shyster is? During the pandemic, we all tuned into the Fyre Fest. It was a way for young millennials to think they're cool, go to this exotic place, spend a lot of money listening to concerts, glamp, which is glamorous camping, and hang out and do things and be yay, rock, go fight, win. All right? Well, what happened is this shyster, he planned it, well, about as badly as it could be planned. There was no food, there was no tents, there was no setup, there was no this, there was no that. And this guy, Billy McFarland, went to jail for 4 years. Well, Billy Mack is back. Guess who's back? Back. Mack is back. Back. Guess who's back? Billy's back. Billy's back. Mack is back. Mack is back. Well, guess what? So Billy McFarland has this new scheme. This new scheme is basically he will allow you to join the party for $1,800 an hour, virtual drinks, all this kind of crazy stuff. And to Billy McFarland's credit, he came up with this idea in prison. Had a lot of time to think in prison. He came up with this idea. Good for Billy McFarland. Bad for anybody that participates in anything that Billy McFarland does. The beauty of this is what McFarland is spreading doesn't involve traveling halfway across the country. What McFarland is spreading, you can do from your home, from your computer. It's virtual. I don't understand it. I read it. You can get drinks. You can order drinks. You can do all this stuff, but it's virtual. The delusion of this man is something, reads the big man on campus headline. Look, it isn't delusional if he can get people to sign up for it. And if you sign up for it, you're going to get what you deserve. Here's what you deserve. One, maybe you deserve Billy McFarland is a new man, and this is a revolutionary idea. Maybe, just maybe. All right? Or history certainly has a way of repeating itself. And Billy McFarland's history is that of a con man. It's that of playing to the emotions of attention-starved millennials. We've all seen the girl, and then she's miserable. My wife and I, MGM Park Hotel. I'm doing the Summer League in Vegas. We're sitting at the bar. Bar's in the middle of the casino. It's after the games. I tell her, look, I'll just meet you there. We'll grab dinner and hang out. All right. So I'm sitting, and I look over to my left, and there's some girl all dialed up. Nobody's around her. Got an ass this big, but got a big set, you know what I'm saying. So she's sitting there acting like she's having the time of her life. There's literally nobody around her. Literally. Like she's eating like chicken fingers or wings or whatever, but she's got one drink. It's like a, Sex in the City drink, a martini or, and she's posing. And I thought to myself, now I got to tell you, that's pretty damn pathetic. Like that is really, really, really pathetic. But that's what we want. And that's what this guy plays to. I got to give deuces. What does deuces mean? Hey, I'm going to the YouTube chat. Does anybody know what deuces actually means? Because I see all the white dudes giving deuces. Can anybody explain to me what deuces mean? When white dudes flash deuces, what does that mean? I'm going to ask, when people in general flash deuces in picture, hey, Dylan and Ryan, you guys are young guys. What does that mean? What is deuces? What is it? I don't know. That means you're leaving? All right. I don't, like, am I in a gang if I flash deuces? Deuces. Oh, all right. I think you're right, though. I always assumed deuces was a way of saying see ya. All right. All right. That's deuces. All right. What's hello? All right. If deuces is going away, what is hello? Maybe I'll ask Royce White. Royce White's too smart for this. Royce White is my next guest. He ran against that Omar lady, crazy, ridiculous Omar lady, and former NBA player. I'm really looking forward to talking to him because he's really smart, and I'm going to sound really stupid, but I did try to study. I did. I tried to study for this. But the truth of the matter is, Royce White is a voice that I like hearing. Royce White is a guy that when he speaks, I want to hear what he has to say. And if you'll notice in the interview that I'm about to do, Royce White, I'm going to let speak. The questions are going to be short. The questions are going to be very short. And I want to hear from him. People ask me all the time, man, you ask short questions. Well, yeah, because when you have a guest on, you want the guest to speak. Doesn't that make sense? People are saying hello means giving the finger. I had a kid the other day. I'm at the Indiana game, and he kind of smacks me. Hey, Dakich, F you. I'm like, whoa, time out. What do we do? Have a little respect. He was drunk, and so I walked away. I'm like, this is stupid. But next time, I'm going to flash the deuces because I want to be cool. Tonight, college hoops, baby, Kansas State. I'm going to give you, in fact, I'll give it to you right now. Get your pens and paper. This is a parlay that I already took today. And you're not going to like it. You're going to say, well, that's really going out on a limb. I ain't interested in limbs. What I'm interested is winning money, cash, scratch. All right? So here's what I took. Arkansas money line. This is all one bet. It's a 3-team parlay. Arkansas at home money line against Texas A&M. Duke money line at home against Wake Forest. Kent State money line at home against Central Michigan. It is plus 106. I bet $300 to win $619. That's my bet for the night. It's too much, but I saw it. I figured the heck with it. Let's go. So there you go. I didn't touch Kansas State because I don't feel comfortable with Kansas State. I don't know whether TCU is back playing and West Virginia is really good. I don't know. I don't mess around with games that I don't know anymore. I used to say this game is on TV, so I'm going to take it. Not anymore. Like Clemson is at Boston College. Clemson's played great. Clemson is 20th in the country. Clemson has the kind of team that can come back late. They maybe struggle, but they're connected. When you watch tonight, if Clemson is down, you might want to live bet them. That's one I'm looking at. Boston College, Grant's a good coach. They seem to be playing better. We'll see what happens. And then Indiana, Maryland. Indiana is actually an underdog going into Maryland. Now, Maryland's played better, as I said, but Indiana is whomping people. And I saw it for myself, and Seth Greenberg talked about it. Indiana is getting in a stance, and every guy with Indiana is able to guard his own guy. And let me tell you, that is huge. It's why Tennessee is really good. When you can guard your own guy, meaning I don't need you to help. College basketball is so much about dribbling, getting you to help, kicking it, either driving it off the recovery or shooting it. Or if I drive it, help comes, I throw it up. Other side, offensive backboard. But when you can guard your own, and Indiana has become really good at guarding their own. Tennessee, I think, is the best in the country at guarding their own. See, Purdue can guard their own really well, but they've got that monster back there. Indiana, same thing. Indiana, the all-time career shot block leader is Trace Jackson Davis. So Trace Jackson Davis puts in the mind of his defenders, his own teammates, I can get up into this guy a little bit because even if I get beat, Trace is back there blocking stuff. So it's fascinating. It really is. And that's real college basketball. So when you watch tonight, whatever game you're going to watch, try not to watch the basketball. Try to watch off the basketball. And if you do watch the basketball, watch this. Watch if a guy, a man, can keep his own man in front of him. Ball screen, you got to help. Maybe you switch. Seth was talking about Kansas State. Kansas switched everything. So it didn't matter. Big switched to little, little switched to big, that kind of thing. But you got to be able to keep the basketball in front of you. And if you can do that in modern college basketball, where the dribble is so important. Hey, look. If you had a nickel for every dribble in a basketball game, you'd never work again. It used to be if you had a nickel, you reverse the ball, you cut, you move. No. Today, the ball gets dribbled until it bleeds. Period. Boom. So, tonight, no matter what game you're watching, see if the team, and here's what to do. I'll give you a little gambling tip. And I got to look. I think I'm up $1,500 this week or this month. DraftKings will tell you how much you're up. If you go to the Financial Center, you can see on the day, on the month, previous month, year, that kind of thing. I think I'm up $1,600 this month, and I know I was up about $800 last month because I changed my betting philosophy. If I'm watching a college basketball game, and even though a team is down, but I can tell that they are in a defensive stance, man, and every single dribble is guarded by its own man, I immediately bet that team. I don't necessarily bet it to win. I don't necessarily bet it money. I'll bet it to win, but I usually take points with it if they're down. Or if it's a really good team and they're down, maybe I'm giving up a lot less points because I see the eventuality of what's going to happen here. And the eventuality is the better team's going to win because they're guarding. I've told you this before. I had a game where we're up 20 at halftime, and my assistants, everybody's happy, and I'm like, oh, man. And they're like, Coach, what are you doing? I go, we hit 3 shots at the shot clock buzzer. That's 9 points. We hit another 2. That was 3 threes. We turned them over 3 times on straight steals. That's another 6. That's 15 of our points that we probably won't get. That kind of stuff. It's crazy. Watch that tonight. That is the Danny D basketball tip of the day, brought to you by Illinois State basketball, where they just beat the Southern Illinois Salukis, the #1 team in the Missouri Valley. When we come back, talk about basketball. Royce White, man. Royce White, All-American. Royce White, drafted number 16 by the Rockets, played a number of years. We're going to talk about mental health. We're going to talk about his journey. We're going to talk about what happened in Memphis when we come back.
And how How long after 9/11 does your unit, the 160th SOAR, which is the most elite helicopter pilots in the world, how long does it take for you guys to figure out, okay, a plan's being set in motion, we're going to Afghanistan? Was it within days? Was it within weeks?
It was within hours.
Within hours.
So we drive back that night, the battalion commander and I, and the next morning I'm sent down in a 15-passenger van with a bunch of other planners to Tampa, Florida. And we're to plan America's response, as far as the rotary wing side of it. And by October 3rd, I was in the country of Uzbekistan preparing to do personnel recovery for the bombing campaign that was about to kick off.
And this is depicted in the movie 12 Strong. Correct me if I'm wrong, where you guys are going to fly in from Uzbekistan. This is what's known as the horse soldiers. This is going to kind of be the first wave. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah. So initially we're there for, I want to say about 2 weeks of bombing. And then there is no further plan that we know of. And then all of a sudden, 5th Special Forces Group rolls in. Their commander takes over the task force. We were in Task Force Dagger out of K2 Air Base, Karshi-Kanabad, and he wants a briefing on our capabilities. And so we sat down and we started talking to him about, the mountains and the distances that we can or can't fly, the way the weather is and all these things. And he's like, gee, I wish somebody had told us that ahead of time, and ironically, when I was in Tampa, they were one room over and nobody ever connected us, because it just wasn't considered important, but now it was, especially as they heard that, the mountains were, 20,000 feet and that the weather was horrible and all these things. And so we tell them what we can do. And he goes, well, you guys are going to start doing a UW campaign, which is unconventional warfare. That's where you link up individual operational detachments or ODAs up with factions of the Northern Alliance, which were the allies that we were trying to coordinate with. So it went from there.
We've talked a lot of college hoops today. Seth Greenberg joined me. I'm wearing my Illinois State shirt as my son's Illinois State Redbirds went and beat the #1 team in the Missouri Valley. People know Royce White from a lot of different places. Congress runs, very vocal about a number of issues, but many may not know. I remember you in high school. I didn't recruit you because, well, frankly, we didn't think you were leaving Minnesota, but people don't know how versatile you were. Handle the ball, pass the ball. You weren't just some big, strong dude playing on the block.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I probably wasn't leaving Minnesota in that first round. I'm a very loyal guy. Minnesota, I was born and raised here, and Minnesota raised me. And I have a deep affection for the state of Minnesota and the culture here and the tradition and my family roots. One of my great uncles was actually the dean of the dentistry school there at the University of Minnesota in the 1930s or 40s, and he was, world renowned in that regard. So I probably wasn't leaving Minnesota the first go around, but yeah, I led my team when I finally did get to play at Iowa State. I led my team in all 5 major statistical categories. Now, some people would say that's that's an indicator that the rest of my team wasn't that good, but that's not true at all. I played with a very good set of teammates. I just came up in a way that you have to be an all-around good player.
You mentioned Dave Thorson, your high school coach, is a guy that I knew a long time ago. The impact that a coach had on you, you mentioned that he's credited by you with a lot of your success.
Yeah, 100%. You know, when I came to Dave, I was a kid who had started playing basketball from a very, very young age, 5, 6, and not only 5 or 6 years old. And not only that, I played basketball at a very intense level at 5 or 6 years old for that time period. You know, we were running, it always, you know, cracked me up later on in life when I was a teenager in college and we would do our conditioning and we would have, you know, 30 seconds to finish our you know, killers, our man makers, as they're called. We were doing those at 6, 7 years old on my AAU team. So I always chuckled at that later on. But yeah, I mean, you know, I came up when I got to Dave, I was still rough around the edges. I was a neighborhood kid who had played a lot, who loved to play. And I was still, my body was changing and I didn't really understand the game the way I needed to. And he sat me down and spent the time with me in film and skill development wise to understand the game fundamentally, philosophically. And from there, you know, the rest was history.
You mentioned the word old school with you and Dave. What does old school mean to you?
Well, the number one thing I took away from Dave was you play for the name on the front of the jersey, not the name on the back of the jersey. And that is one of the bigger qualities, I think, that athletes have the chance to learn early is that mindset of self-sacrifice for a bigger cause and not a fake self-sacrifice, not a cathartic self-sacrifice, but one that has genuine measurable results. And we started from that baseline. You know, you play for the name on the front of the jersey, not the one on the back. And if you play the right way, if you make the right plays, if you do what's expected of you, if you do what's expected of you by your teammates, who you love and whose back you have and who you're committed to, good things will happen out there on the court. Things will take care of themselves. And that's always paid dividends for me, not only on the court, but in life.
Well, I was going to ask you about that because, you know, you're outspoken. You don't follow the crowd. You just, you know, when I read, getting ready for this interview, what I see is a very intelligent dude. You use words. My parents were school teachers in Gary, Indiana, and I did read books on 30 days to more powerful vocabulary, and I don't know what the hell some of the words you're using are, and they're great, man. But how did you have been criticized? You've been criticized for your stance. You've been criticized for not going along. How has self-sacrifice and understanding it and having to deal with it at a young age, how has that helped you?
Well, I mean, there was a split that happened there. I want to, you know, be clear about. The philosophy that Dave taught me was more constraint to a basketball context, although it did lend itself off the court as well. When I encountered the NBA, I made it to the pinnacle. That philosophy had allowed me to excel all the way up to the pinnacle of basketball, the basketball industry, basketball, an athletic life, and that is to be, you know, scouted, you could say, or sought after by NBA teams, NBA organizations. And so that philosophy had got me to that point. Once I encountered the NBA, it was a major transition. It was during a major transition in society as a whole. And so I had to fumble my way through that and try and get my bearings with a basketball mentality or an athletic mentality and the social circumstance that I was confronting, the establishment I was confronting. And at the high school level, you know, the corruption is far, far less when it comes to sports, you know, and Dave, you know, is not a corrupt guy. He's a great guy. And it's not a business of basketball at that level in many respects. The high school coach has a lot of autonomy and he's able to build that culture. Once you get to the corporate part of it, it becomes just that, very, very corporate. So I had to engage that differently. And then I had to kind of reflect on myself and take my basketball philosophy and expand it out and you know, let it grow up is what I had to do. And then it still paid dividends. I just changed the scope of it, right? It's like, okay, what is true? What is true? What is right? What is the sacrifice that's necessary to be able to speak what is true or do what is true?
On your Substack, I was reading, and you mentioned the system. And it was really interesting. As soon as I saw, it's in kind of chapter 2, the whole system. And your first question, who is the system specifically? It's an interesting question. In your mind, who and what is the system? People talk about the system.
Yeah, well, to me, I think when most people talk about the system, they talk about a very abstract, group of any number of entities that they feel are the oppressive force in their life. And in many respects, people identify a system as a scapegoat for themselves and their own individual accountability in life. And in doing that, in that sort of self-deception, they actually misidentify the system. And not that they don't understand certain elements, but they miss the broadness of that system. And then they fall all over themselves and mostly in their political views and their political participation. So to me, I say you got 5 major industries or major institutions that run the world, especially the West, but the West dominates the world. Let's not be mistaken about that. You got the 3 industrial complexes: military, media, and medicine. And in many ways, they are connected, but they have their own, individual task and function. So you have the 3 industrial complexes. Underneath those, you have always had sort of international banking interest, an international banking cartel, as I like to call it. And now the final stone at the top, the final cap on the whole deal is what has become the new technocracy, right? The eye in the sky, big tech. And so to me, that is the system. That's the 5-headed hydra of the West, and it means to expand itself to the global scale and have global reach and global authority.
Joe Biden just put tanks, over to Ukraine and said, well, they're basically not threatening. And you make the comment, well, I think MIT scientists might say differently. Hypocrisy in the media. How did we get here? How did we get to a place where a guy, in my opinion now, I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth, but I believe a guy can sit there and it doesn't matter what I do, it matters what I say. That drives me nuts. How did we get to this place?
Well, I think Donald Trump was a watershed moment of mass formation psychosis and a sort of drone-like capitulation. The Donald Trump was such a magnetic character in the political sense, or just in our society, in our history, that he was really able to be used as maybe the greatest scapegoat of all time, or maybe the greatest scapegoat since Adolf Hitler. And we can talk more about that if you want to. And it's not by accident that many of his opponents on the left and the right often characterized him or compared him to Adolf Hitler. I don't think that was by mistake or coincidence. It was in line with a historical trajectory of propaganda and of politicized narrative. But the reason why I say that is, we had built a society up until Donald Trump where all indicators suggested that we wanted a person who could win a popularity contest. We wanted a person who had made themselves popular, even if it's in a superficial way, even if it had no intellectual merit or any merit of skill and competence. We liked that. We idolized that. We adore that. We spend a lot of time and money on those people and that type of theater. And in my opinion, the establishment had made a calculation that they had that system rigged to a perfect level of predictability, and Donald Trump threw a stone, a complete interruption in their calculation, and they took it personal and they resent them for it, and their response was, we're going to turn the misinformation up to 100. We're going to take the misinformation dial and crank it all the way up, and we're going to totally stress test what people will believe just by us saying it. And that's what they're currently doing in our country and around the world. They are telling blatant lies that are completely in misalignment with their actions. And they're almost mocking the American people, but also free people all around the world. They're doing things and saying things that are completely different, and they're completely different than they claim to be motivated for or by.
You know, to your point on Trump, I said this. I said, you know, Donald Trump, the winner in the whole Donald Trump thing was the media. It established clear lines, and it established exactly what you're saying, that we can and will not hesitate to provide misinformation because nobody's going to call us on that. You have called people on that. How much blowback have you gotten from mainstream media?
Well, I've been called everything from a far right, extremist or a conspiracy theorist, a darling of the alt-right, a bootlicker, a shill for white supremacy, a racist. The list goes on. And yeah, I think you're right. And ultimately, this is, and I always talk about the establishment, and I always talk about institution and institutional corruption. Why? Because I think people should take their citizenship serious. I think they should see the institutions that preside over them and start to be able to hold them accountable for their role in the circumstance of everyday citizens' lives, working class, poor, even the rich, doesn't matter. We should know what who our institutions are and what they're doing, and we should hold them accountable. But make no mistake about it, the referendum here is on we the people. The referendum is on us. We allowed this to happen. And the point I made yesterday on my good friend Jason Whitlock's show is this. This entire deal that has been signed, we agreed to it. We signed the dotted line, whether we want to admit it or not. And a lot of people who are in politics or in the public square, who are public figures, won't even say that because you can't really gain an audience in today's world if you put any responsibility back on the person who you're trying to get to subscribe to you, right? It's like you don't want to tell them that they're the problem because then they'll turn it off because then there'll be too much pressure on them to actually do something. But I always try, and that's one thing, that's something that correlates back to what I took from Dave Thorson. It's not about what they want to hear. It's about what they need to hear. And if I don't get a following or subscription because of that, I'll take that. I'll take that hit. That's that sacrifice that I morph from the basketball athlete philosophy and into my world and political involvement. But the referendum is on us. We signed a deal that as long as we can get a good material high and security, that we're okay with these institutions becoming corrupt, and we're okay with these institutions becoming far bigger than they should be.
I want to go back to Jason. He was just absolutely, crucified, I guess, on social media. He has always been big on the family. Now, he talked about the matriarchy, and he used it relative to the police chief in Memphis and the crime of the 5 police officers in Memphis. Give me your thought on what Jason had to say about that.
Well, I agreed with what Jason had to say. And over at Fearless, Jason and I and the entire crew have this conversation on an ongoing basis about the destruction of the Black family, the intentional destruction of the Black family that the system was involved in, and the ramifications of that and what we see today. So nothing Jason said struck me as out of the ordinary. Now, when you're in a 4-minute segment with Tucker and not a more long format like I am here, it's tough to convey an idea in its entirety. I thought he did a great job. The response to him from the Black community, by and large, is exactly what I was just talking about. There's a deal that's been cut that allows certain elements of this whole system that's rooted in white supremacy to carry on with their business as usual every single day of every year, of every term, of every decade, of every century, you could say, or let's say the half century since about the 1960s in this case. And then there's this other element of that group of people, the Black community, that selectively wants to cry out the whole system is guilty, and it's all a scam, right? And it's not that the system doesn't have guilt, and this is what I said in my Substack. It's not that the system doesn't have guilt. It's that the system has a ton of guilt, and that guilt has been, that we are complicit in that guilt. We are a part of the system. We are the inventory. We are the inventory of a radical materialist society that has become openly anti-God, openly anti-moral. I mean, in the Black community, there's a common phrase, get the bag. And get the bag means that you can sort of forego any moral consideration in the pursuit of money or material success. And that's what Jason's really talking about, is that the baby mama culture in America, Black women, have been incentivized, systemically incentivized to uproot any family structure, to sabotage any family structure. And it's cost the Black community a great deal. And you could say before the womb or even after the womb, right? I mean, there's all this conversation about abortion too, that you could rightfully say is in the family conversation or dynamic. And the immediate counter argument is, well, you want us to have these babies, but then you don't take care of them out of the womb. Well, we don't take care of them out of the womb. We as a community ourselves, just the Black community. And so the lie that the great lie that's been told, and I don't mean to ramble here, but this is a very intimate topic to me. The lie that's been told here to Black people after the Civil Rights Act was passed is that the only way we can have freedom in this country is if we expand the welfare state or the federal government as a whole to the widest limits possible. And in doing so, women are explicitly tied to the expansion of government. And it has a huge effect on the family. And this is how the global and the federal affects the local. So yeah, he's 100% right in his overall assessment. And I think people just, lashed out at him because they don't want to confront that truth.
You ran as a Republican, and Charles Barkley famously said, and I don't know, I think he maybe said later on he was kidding, but I don't think he was when he said it. He said, Black people, we continually vote Democratic in our cities, and we're continually poor. That makes sense to me. Does that make sense to you, or is that too simplistic?
Well, look, I had a very I ran Republican at a unique time in American history. And I think one of the major hurdles for the American people is to understand the great divide between the Democrat and Republican establishment as a uniparty or political hegemony, and the America First movement, which Donald Trump, took the reins of. It wasn't his movement. The Tea Party and all of those things led up to it, but he took the reins of it and really expanded it and blew it out and took it to scale. And the far left, there's a difference. And I would even say that the progressive movement in many ways shows that they're in cahoots with the uniparty, with the Democrat establishment and the Republican establishment. So I ran Republican for Congress against Ilhan Omar in this unique time, in this tumultuous time in politics. So I would say Charles Barkley's comments about Republican and Democrat is too simple for today. At the time when he said it, I understand what he was saying. But now Charles has gone woke too. I mean, he's out there shilling for the LGBTQ and transgenderism at an all-time high. And that is an explicit part of the Democrat platform or the uniparty platform. What is true in it, and maybe Charles having a big platform isn't a coincidence. Maybe it's by design that people who can't take the conversation to this level often get to say the most in front of the biggest crowd. Liberalism as a political ideology is what informs that entire side of the political spectrum. All three, the progressives, the establishment Democrats, and the establishment Republicans. Neoliberalism and neoconservatism is what informs their politics. And that is where the hegemony is. And that liberalism came into fruition as a part of the post-World War II democratic liberal order, a formation of global policy that used Adolf Hitler and the Holocaust as a scapegoat. And it's not to say that the Holocaust didn't happen, because it did. And it's not to say that Adolf Hitler wasn't an evil man, because he was. But both things can be true at the same time. Adolf Hitler could be a horrible, evil psychopathic man, and the Holocaust can be a great, great human tragedy, as well as a group of opportunistic people see the chance to use it to restructure the world. And that's what's happened. And that ideology has prevailed in this country and in Black communities since that time.
Fascism. Ronald Reagan, said if fascism infiltrates our country, it's going to be brought in by liberalism under the guise of liberalism, which includes basically the government control over everything. Yeah, you have a free market, but you have government control, government-owned deals. Are we headed in that direction?
Oh no, we're there. Yeah, there's no headed towards it. We're already in it right now, and it's it's daunting to say, and we continue to be hopeful. We have to create an alternative economy. I think that's of dire importance that we create an alternative economy. But yeah, we're in it now, and I think what the progressives provide, what the radical far left provides, is this sort of abstract spearhead of pure energy and commitment, mind you, true commitment, political commitment and participation that would like to present communism or socialism as this form of anti-corporatism. And it's just a ridiculous notion, because the fact is communism or socialism at the global scale is the ultimate form of corporatism. Right. And what they're doing is they're playing on the fact that they've been very predatory, not just they on the far left, but the entire post-World War II democratic liberal order has been very predatory on our young people in their education, in their formative education. So people don't even view the state, the nation state, as a corporation. It is. The nation state is a corporation. And when you create a hegemony of nations under one rubric, one prevailing ideology, like the post-World War II democratic liberal order, you now have a conglomerate of corporations. And when that body of people informs the policy for the local level, you have the highest form of corporatism there is. And so people don't understand that. But the corporation writ large is now the bastion of New World Order.
Last thing before I let you go, was there anything in particular that you saw? Because it's a big commitment to run for any office, obviously running for Congress, high profile as you are, Omar is, that kind of thing. Was there anything that you saw specifically that said, all right, I just got to do this regardless of what happens?
Yeah. I was on the ground after the George Floyd protests, and I led a number of peaceful demonstrations to a number of key institutions to try and combat the mainstream narrative that came from CNN or MSNBC or anywhere else. And I talked about corporatocracy. I talked about the Fed and their monetary policy and how monetary policy has a significant trickle-down effect to the local level, and how George Floyd's life, the circumstance of his life, you could see through a broader policy lens, and whether it be the counterfeit money that the Fed prints all the time, or it's the fentanyl that we willingly let into this country because of our trade relationship with China. Those things I tried to highlight. And during that time, I heard the whole system is guilty. And then I had a Black woman tell me on the streets that just to be a Black woman is a revolution. That just to be a Black woman is a revolution in and of itself. And I was so offended by that, because my mother, as a Black woman, is somebody who would never agree to such terms, would never agree that revolutionary action or even revolutionary thought is so passive, is so, metaphorical. She was largely responsible as well for putting a lot of great reading material in my bedroom when I was growing up as a child, and encouraged me to read as a young child. So I was offended by that. But what I realized is the entire identity of the Black woman, and by way of the Black people as a whole, is being used as a battle axe against Americans, all Americans, or the American culture, or the ideal of America. And the Republican Party needs to clarify our identity in response to that. The conservative movement needs to clarify our own identity in response to that, which is why I decided, hey, I'll run Republican. And let's see where everybody's at. Let's see where the Republicans are. Let's see where the conservative and the Christians are. Let's see where the liberal establishment is. Let's throw let's fall on that sword. I'll fall on that sword. I'll make that sacrifice. I'll be the black man that the Washington Post can call crazy or a conspiracy theorist or a darling of the alt-right, basically a white supremacist, in order to get a proper metric of where everybody is. And I've made great headway, and I think the campaign was a success in that way. And I've seen a lot and I've heard a lot that inform where I think we need to go next.
What did you learn?
Well, the first thing that was really eye-opening for me was the campaign fundraising process on the Republican side. When I got it, you hear that politics, and when we say follow the money, the political campaign finance part is it's door number one. I mean, it's door number one. And we hear all the time that these political races are based on who can raise the most money. So when I got into it, I was trying to, navigate that and figure out the lay of the land there. And what I came across really shocked me, that there are these bundlers, there are these donor bundlers, these agencies, more or less, that have a database of all the Republican donors across the country, or a lot of Republican donors across the country, and they rent their service. They rent those lists to you for a split. And the first offer I got on this split was 85-15, and I thought to myself, man, those sound like relatively normal numbers coming from the basketball world. 15%, an agent usually gets about 15% on an endorsement deal or whatnot. I think it's the American people's money and the American people's dollars, so it shouldn't be like a basketball contract. What I found out was that it was 85% to the bundler.
Oh.
And I thought, my initial response was, wow, I must have found a corrupt unicorn out here in the wild that thinks they could actually run this scam on candidates. Not the case. This is the norm. This is the norm in campaign fundraising on the Republican side. So then it became very clear to me just how much the Republican apparatus is playing that position of is functioning as controlled opposition before the money even gets to the race to try and influence elections from Americans who actually do want to participate. We sort of tell the story that Americans aren't participating. They're giving their money. They're trying to participate. But we got these third-party middlemen, these third-party bundlers that are taking 85 cents on the dollar for every American. So not only are our politicians who get into office scamming the American people out of their tax money, we got middlemen in there that are leeching and scamming the American people off the dollars they're trying to use to influence elections. That was the biggest takeaway, to be honest, that we have to restructure the entire conservative movement and Republican apparatus if we want to actually save this country.
How disappointing was that?
It wasn't as shocking as I'm making it out to be right now. In retrospect, it's like, wow, that was eye-opening. But I could tell that something was, anybody who accepts that there's a uniparty sort of scam happening in DC, that wouldn't shock you. It wouldn't shock you to find out that in the bottom of the Republican foundation is all this corruption and money scamming going on. That wouldn't shock anybody. So. And look, I'm not telling people not to donate to their candidates, right? What I'm saying is you should probably donate straight to your candidate. Win Red has gotten a lot of criticism, and I'm not here to say Win Red isn't corrupt or to shield for Win Red. But the donations that came straight to the campaign through Win Red, they took about 1.5% or 2%, which I think is reasonable, right? It's like any other payment processor, you could say. So that was reasonable. But these bundlers, I mean, if you get an in the mail notice, you need to check into who's facilitating your donations. And my recommendation would be to donate straight to great candidates like Kari Lake, like myself, a Matthew Gates, or whoever these candidates are that are actually standing up for America. You need to donate straight to them and figure out where your money's going. And be very wary of the local Republican establishment in your city, state, town, or whatever the case may be.
Royce, I kept you way too long, man. Great conversation. I thank you. I've admired you. I admire what you're doing. And I thank you for taking a half hour with us. I kept you too long. I apologize, but I had a great time talking to you.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate the time. Godspeed, man.
That's Royce White. I turned my wife. I said, look, I'm going to have Royce White on tomorrow. And she's like, oh, really? So I showed her. And now she, now she can't get enough. All right, well, we're going to kick back to sports, but this is the reason I came from ESPN to here. Conversations like that. Can't have that conversation at ESPN if you're me. You just can't. Appreciate Royce White. Appreciate everybody at OutKick for helping us get that done. I got college hoops coming back. We got a lot to get to. We'll be right back.
College football's in trouble. There's a lot of people trying to keep it from happening.
I think it's a general consensus across the college football landscape. We want to play football.
College football is a huge part of the fall. It's a huge part of Americana itself.
It just really felt like people in the country needed college football to just feel a little sense of normal.
Big news from the Big Ten as the conference releasing its 10-game football schedule.
We go home thinking there's going to be practice the next day. Everybody gets a text, stay home, everything's canceled.
Big Ten fall football season has been canceled.
We just believe collectively there's too much uncertainty.
I guess what I'm trying to understand, though, Kevin, is that was the same position you had 6 days ago.
The Big Ten is an unmitigated disaster.
There was a ton of confusion. There was presidents saying one thing, there was coaches saying another.
Players had to be silent, coaches had to be silent, ADs had to be silent.
People said, how does what you just did make any sense?
And nobody really knew what the heck happened when they voted to cancel the season.
You make this huge historical announcement, and then Kevin Warren never does a press conference to explain it. It was like a masterclass in how not to handle a crisis.
The word really that was lacking in all of this is transparency.
It felt like a lot of stuff was happening behind closed doors.
Even today, we still don't know what occurred.
So you don't tell us parents, that's fine, but you're not telling the young men that it affects.
We have to make a decision to save the season. What about the history books? What about the rivalry games? What about Paul Bunyan's axe? How is that not going to go to a team this year?
This is a failure of epic magnitude. The Big Ten presidents and leaders should be held accountable for the disastrous decisions that they're making.
Then the commissioner doubles down, saying his decision will not be revisited.
And that's the point. It felt like a war was declared on the Big Ten and Kevin Warren.
Everything turned political.
Because if this is medical, then you would have stopped the game of football a long time ago.
I think the Big Ten leaders will tell you that they probably made a mistake in hindsight.
If I had the chance to do it all over last year, I would make the same decisions that we made.
Hey, thanks, Seth Greenberg. Thanks, Royce White, for coming on the show. And, man, that's why I love doing this show. I'm sorry, I just do. I love doing it. All right, this weekend and this week in general, a ton of great college basketball. I'll tell you one that's sneaky good tonight, Steve Alford's Nevada Wolfpack. They're a really good team. They're taking on San Diego State. They're a home dog at 2.5, but that is a really, really good game. I'm going to give you the 5 best college basketball games, must-see college basketball games this weekend. First, number 5, ladies and gentlemen, Kansas State. We already talked about it with Seth Greenberg. Kansas coming off a monster win. Kansas had lost 3 in a row, only time they've ever done it in the Bill Self era. then had to go to Rupp against a Kentucky team that seemed to have found its footing playing through Oscar Tshiebwe in the post. Well, guess what? No. They had a hell of a game, and it ended up being, well, you know what? It ended up being Kansas basketball. It ended up being Bill Self playing defense, his team. Bill Self getting contributions from a number of guys, big shots being made, and they ended up beating Kentucky. Now, in the world of Kansas State, you got to understand something. Kansas State has celebrated, or did celebrate, their win over Kansas when they won a couple weeks ago. And they did it in such a way that I would be using everything that Kansas State did with my team at Kansas for this particular game. Jerome Tang, the coach, got on the scores table. The crowd rushed to court. It tells you at Kansas that you're still obviously a big-time team this year, but it also is like, hey, wait a second. This is a little infuriating. We got a little something for these guys, and if I were Bill Self, I'd tell my team and my fans, when we beat these guys, nobody rush to court. Just don't do it. Don't rush to court. Don't do it. We're going to act like we've been there. Now, I am not saying at all, not even a little bit, that they did anything wrong. I'm not saying anything they did. Nothing. Zero. I'm just saying that if I were Bill Self, that's what I would be doing. I would be all over this. I would be crushing souls about, look at how they embarrassed you, all that. I mean, I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you. All right, next one. Gonzaga at St. Mary's. Look, Gonzaga doesn't have 3 pros on its team. There's no Jalen Suggs. There is Drew Timme, who is very good. They're going into a St. Mary's team that, frankly, is on the bubble, probably in the NCAA tournament, but they are, you know what? They're in the top 20, so they're in the tournament, but a couple good losses, and they will be out quick. Here's the deal. Randy Bennett is going for his 500th win at St. Mary's. Now, St. Mary's, you're going to see this. You're going to see a team that is going to move, that is going to cut. Now, I talked about Purdue. If you watch this game this Saturday, watch off the ball with St. Mary's. St. Mary's, under Randy Bennett, passes the ball as well as any team in college basketball, and nobody cares about it. Like, nobody loses their mind on it. We had Shaka Smart here, and he was talking about his assist guy, Kunkel, who is the second or third assist guy in the country. And no one's even talking about the kid because we got to show guys dunking. I don't want to show guys dunking. I don't want to. I want to see slick passing. I was watching a Larry Bird highlight thing this morning. Don't know why. It just came across me. And next thing you know, Bird's giving it all this. He's faking over top. He's shooting. It's incredible. And I'm sitting there going, all right, right now, name me one player in the NBA, and I'm not talking about shooting, I'm not talking about dunking, I'm not talking about finishing around the rim. Name me one player that you watch that you say, this guy's a great passer. Man, I love watching this guy pass. You know who was? I'll tell you a guy who was. Rajon Rondo. Rajon Rondo was fantastic. Rajon Rondo was a guy that I would pay to go see play basketball before whatever Rajon Rondo did. I'm talking about Rajon Rondo when he was with the Celtics when they won a championship. All right, St. Mary's, 8-0. I'm going to go through some numbers for you. 19-4, Gonzaga. 18-4. 8-1, 7-1 in the league. They lost at home, Gonzaga did. This would be a win for Gonzaga that wins them their conference. This would be a win for Gonzaga. Number 12 beating number 18. Gonzaga is 12. St. Mary's is 18. That would put them in contention. I don't think they would get there, but in contention for a 1 seed. Maybe, possibly a 2 seed, but I don't think they can get there. Maybe, just maybe. Now, a lot of people are saying the one team you don't want to play, baby, as a mid-major, there's 2 teams, Florida Atlantic of Dusty May and the Gonzaga Gales. Look, I don't know who mid-majors or majors want to play. I don't know who they don't want to play. When you get in the tournament, everybody is good. Did you know this? Let me go through this for you. 4 guys in double figures for St. Mary's, only one guy averaging more than 13, and that's at 14.5. Balanced team, you're going to like watching them if, in fact, you watch them tonight. Transfer from Cincinnati, Logan Johnson, athletic kid who's learned how to pass. Number 3. because everybody is here, because they're the number 2 team in the country, and because Bruce Pearl can coach his brains out and is beloved in Knoxville. This game could have been number 1, but there's no chance it was going to be number 1. Auburn against Tennessee. Now, let me tell you, Tennessee, really good. No joke, really good. Don't at me. Fantastic. Blah, 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 blah. They guard. They're talented. You heard Seth Greenberg say earlier, this might be Rick Barnes' best offensive team. And I don't doubt it. It also might be as athletic and as good defensively as any team that Rick Barnes has. And anybody that knows anything about Rick Barnes knows that Rick Barnes has had pretty daggone good teams over the course of years. He just simply has. So when you're putting teams into, well, this is as good as Rick Barnes has, you're talking about some pretty elite company. Auburn, they're 6-2. They lost the home game the other day, but they're 6-2. They're 25th in the country. And I'm telling you, you don't mess around with Bruce Pearl. They've lost their last 2. Bad loss, I thought, to Texas A&M. And then on the road, Saturday, they got down 20. They came back. They got it to within 1. It ended up losing by 3 at West Virginia. So Bruce is coming off of 2 losses. But going into Knoxville, this is going to be a hardly charged environment. This is going to be craziness. This is going to be Tennessee people both loving Bruce Pearl and hating Bruce Pearl, obviously. And it's a top 25 matchup. In fact, I would argue it's a number 2 matchup. Maybe the best team in the country with Tennessee. Number 2 is Duke and Carolina. Don't at me. I understand a lot of people are mad, particularly in the great state of Indiana. Indiana's playing Purdue, 1 against whatever Indiana is 20th. But it's still Duke and Carolina. And I got to tell you something. Even though I believe the angst, the hate, when Kentucky and Louisville are really good, that makes that rivalry better for me personally. These games, as Billis always says, they deliver. Duke and Carolina deliver. Now, people are asking me, why is game day going to Duke Carolina? Neither team is ranked. They've been a bit of a disappointment this year, particularly Carolina, coming off a championship game run, coming off really a championship game where they were up big at half against Kansas. Kansas came roaring back, won national championship. I'll tell you why. Because ESPN understands this. The highest rated game in college basketball on ESPN year after year after year after year is that one right there. They may not be to the level, but they're still Duke and Carolina. There may be no Coach Krzyzewski. There may be no Roy Williams, but it's still Duke and Carolina. It is. And people can complain, why is game day going there? Well, the reason game day's going there is because it sells. Duke, Carolina always delivers, and ESPN puts a ton of resources into it. That's why a lot of people are asking me, how can they not be at IU? This is the biggest game at Indiana since the Kentucky game back when Tom Crean was rebuilding the program. I get it. I swear I do. But the ESPN puts a ton of resources into this game. They have promotions built for the next Duke-Carolina game. It ain't just this one. They've got things built in right now, ready to go for the season ender Duke-Carolina. So I get it, I understand, but no amount of complaining is ever going to change it. All right, Duke 6-4 in the league. Carolina 7-3, 15-6 is what both of them are. Un-Duke, un-Carolina-like, fine. Still going to be a hell of a game. Number 1 game this weekend is Indiana and Purdue, and I'm glad to see it. I am. Indiana has played great. Indiana went to Illinois and beat a really good Illinois team by double digits. Indiana, I get it. People are going to say, well, you haven't played great teams. I don't know. They blew out Wisconsin in the second half at home. They blew out Michigan State in the second half at home. Last 2 minutes against Ohio State, they outscored them 17-1, or last 3 minutes on Saturday night. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Indiana's playing great. And on the other side, there's absolutely nobody, and I mean nobody, better right now than Zach Edey in the post, unless it's Trace Jackson-Davis. And there is nobody, and I mean nobody as a team, playing better than Purdue. Now, think about this. Purdue lost a top 5 draft choice in Jaden Ivey. Purdue lost maybe the best passing big man in Travion Williams. Indiana really didn't lose anything. The one thing they lost is a guy named Rob Finney. Now, Rob Finney hit the game winner against Purdue last year, first time Indiana had beaten Purdue since, I think, the Reagan administration. And Finney was the main reason behind it. He came in, he knocked out a bunch of shots, hit a baseline jumper, hit a three, won the game for him. He's not there, but he's not a great player, wasn't a great player, and didn't do anything after that. They've replaced him with Jalen Hood-Schifino, and it is an upgrade. It's a major upgrade, even though Hood-Schifino is a freshman. This is going to be the most fun game because this is a throwback game. This is a game where it's going to be two post kids and some young Indiana players taking on more of a national base in Indiana. The young Indiana players, a lawyer from Fort Wayne and Smith from Westfield, Indiana, are at Purdue. Newman, Indiana. Kaufman-Wren, state of Indiana. You got a lot of Indiana kids. You got a lot of Indiana flavor on Purdue. Indiana, Galloway, and Trace Jackson Davis, two Indiana kids. All these kids grew up playing against each other. Assembly Hall is going to be insane, particularly if Purdue gets by Penn State and Indiana gets by Maryland. Even if Indiana loses, you're talking about Purdue coming in there number one in the country. It is going to be insane. If you want something on your bucket list and you want something to do this weekend, drive to Bloomington, find a hotel somewhere, go to Nick's, get there at about noon for a 5 o'clock game, get yourself a seat, order a pizza, order some Stroms, and just have at it. Play Sync the Biz with your friends. You'll find out what when you get there, order some fries, and enjoy a day like you've never seen. And if somehow, some way, you scam tickets to it, because there's always scalpers out there, wait until just after game time, the prices go way down, then you'll have yourself a heck of an afternoon. I'm telling you. Indiana got a tough one tonight. I'm going to take Indiana on the money line, but it is interesting tonight. All right. The Wokado prosecutors are trying to block out Chloe Cole at an event in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, as she was speaking out about her experience transitioning and against gender mutilation of children. Of course, the protesters, as protesters always do, had nothing logical to say, nothing logical to do. They only had this. Let's see it, Dylan.
If you don't play into the trans agenda, you're cast out as a bully and a...
Why is it that every crazy little maniac, incredible, ridiculous, asinine person that wants to mutilate children looks and acts like these idiots? Look at the green hair. Look at the size here to the left. Look at the idiot on the floor acting like an idiot. Look at the militant on the right. I don't respect any of them. Now, one of the reasons I don't respect them is because they don't respect themselves. I mean, look at them. I mean, look at how they go about their business. Look at how they go about doing what they do. Look at these people. Look at it. Who kneels down in the middle of a street and just starts screaming? Now, look at that. Bah! Bah! These are people that have nothing else going on in their lives. These are people that are the most miserable among a look at the size on the left, just speaking into a megaphone. Now, you can say I'm body shaming, you'd be right. Look, I don't care what anybody says. I mean, first impressions are based on looks. I got to go through life looking like this. It ain't easy. And when I had hair, I had to make sure I swooshed it around and patted it down and then lacquered it up, and away we went. So I understand that you get judged on looks, and if you don't like it, don't look like that. Look at these people, complete idiots. And then, of course, there's always the purple-haired idiot, in this case, the lime green idiot that we're all supposed to take our cues from. I got to tell you, I don't listen to none of them. I make fun of them because they deserve to be made fun of. They do. I'm sorry, but if you're going to lay down in the middle of a brick road screaming like a complete idiot, we must make fun of you. It's almost in nature. It's almost just part of the DNA of human beings that we must make fun of you if you're going to do this. And I get it, the girl with the green hair, she's craving for attention. I'm sure daddy didn't show her enough, all that kind of stuff. So let me go get lime green hair so people can pay attention to me. I need attention. Well, you got it. You made the greatest show in the history of mornings. You got it. You got it right here. What can I tell you? Isn't it great? Yes, it's great. You got the attention of me, which means you did exactly what you should do. I got to tell you, there's nothing wrong with shaming freaks, man. There is nothing wrong. There isn't. They're all mentally ill. They're freaks, and away you go. I cannot be in Assembly Hall this Saturday. I would love to be in Assembly Hall, but I would rather be where I am going to be. We have an event. It's called Dakich Cycles for the City. We have an event for Dakich Cycles for the City, and at that event, we're going to raise a ton of money for kids and bicycles. We've got 200 tickets that we need sold. I think we're about 195. It's a tough, tough day to sell tickets. The biggest fundraiser, the biggest event for dudes in the city is the Sportsman's dinner, which I spoke at one year, had a blast at. That's going on that night. Indiana's playing Purdue that night. It's a tough, but I don't care. We got a great $15,000 additional donation. You know how many bikes $15,000 could buy? I'm not a math whiz, but 15,000 divided by 250, which is what a bike a lock costs, and our toes are tapping. That's just a donation on top of the 200 times 100, because we're going to sell 200 if I got to pay for the rest out of my own pocket. So I will not be in Assembly Hall, but we are going to break down Indiana, Purdue all week long. We're also waiting for smoke to come out of 56th Street here in Indianapolis. Just go ahead and sign up Jeff Saturday. Just go do it. I mean, who cares? You know what I'm saying? Like, who cares? Just do it. I mean, you're going to do it anyway. I get it. You got to fake us all out with the Rooney Rule. You ever go to church? They're always folding after communion. They're always folding. They're placing. You know, I got this thing from somebody I like, actually from a player's mother, gave me a golf ball crystal. So at the end of Mass, right, the priest is folding and they're putting in the chalice to the altar boy, and the altar boy puts it in the thing there. And yeah, that's what I was doing right there. But that's where I'm going to be this weekend, and we're going to talk about it as we move through the week. We're going to continue to talk hoops. Obviously, we're going to break down the NFL. I got to tell you, Colin Burrows says those people are nuts, Dan, and they'll accuse you of violence for noticing it. I had that from a crazy lady. I told a crazy lady named Joanne Mellis I would not go in a pool with her. She said that was violence. People are idiots. Yes, they are mentally ill. I agree with that. The one lady, Lick, said she had a pacifier in her mouth. Yeah. All right. I can't argue. When people are adults and they have pacifiers in their mouths, nothing you can do. Yeah, I agree with this, Royce. Royce White was the best dressed. He came out in all black, had a black background. It was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. I'm not mad, though, at getting 32% of the vote. 1 out of 3 of y'all on the YouTube chat voted for me. That is shocking. I don't know how anybody could vote for Seth Greenberg in terms of how he was dressed over myself or Royce White. But hey, look, different strokes for different folks. I am resplendent in my 1987 Redbirds sweatsuit jacket. Yeah, that's right. It's the only gear I got from my son. I fly the flag. I listen to the whining when they lose. You know what I mean? I'm a good dad with it. What the heck? Send me a XXX t-shirt because I shrink things in the laundry, Andrew Dakich. Get off your backside and let's go. Thanks to everybody that participated in the YouTube chat. We got a couple 100 people, 300 people. Butterfly, Fred Haviland, Gary Mitchell, Jody Shelton, Lick, Ross Bonnell, Spice Rack, Stephen Cook, and all the rest. Thank you all. Have a wonderful afternoon. I will speak to you tomorrow on Do Not At Me, a.k.a. Don't At Me.